This is the Zone Football League.
We are back with another episode of the Zone In podcast. As always, Mason here, Cam to my side. Look, Cam, we'll jump straight in with reviewing the match of the rounds that we had, round 3. Starting on Sunday with Katara South hosting Cardiff and getting a 8-2 result there. Another big scoreline, as it seems to be the case across all leagues at the moment, start of the season. Disjointed with Easter break, games spread apart, but highlighting more so this one. You were there with another commentary debut there. How did the two of you get along to start with, and how was the game overall?
Well, the game was pretty exciting with the scoreline. Had Nathan alongside for the call, and we got along pretty well. It was nice. It was nice to have someone else there next to me for a change, and I feel like I'm going to say that a few times because we're going to have a few people come on and be that extra on the side. But I think Nathan probably enjoyed his time there. He's got some relation to the Katara juniors, so he was probably enjoying. And that scoreline, he probably wouldn't have said that he enjoyed it, but he probably did. But no, I mean, the game itself was plenty of goals. We probably expected a few from Katara going into it with sort of everything surrounding the game, and it certainly went that way.
Yeah, definitely. With obviously last episode when we previewed this game, we looked at this fixture's results last year, both being draws.
Yep.
So off the back of that, we were kind of contemplating, is it going to be a close one? It's a new year. Katara started strong, Cardiff haven't. So the thoughts of the whole game were going either way, but obviously a very dominant display here from Katara, and didn't take them too long to get onto the scoreboard.
No, and once they did score the first, Cooper Jansen with the opener, you look at players across the league and you expect certain players to be scoring goals, and he did so today, not today, on Sunday, but on the day. But it was, the 8th minute, and then very quickly a few more sort of rolled in. It was a weird game in the sense of the first half felt very odd. It almost felt like at times Katara should have been a lot more goals up, but Cardiff were able to bring back a couple of chances. And by half time it was 3-2. So there was it felt like a very weird game where Katara probably should have scored more in the first half. Cardiff were down and out of a couple of points, and their couple of goals were very good in terms of the counter-attack to get forward, and in particular the first one for Cardiff was from Mitchell Cox, and his goal was very nice, just making the run through and then finding a tight angle. From where I was sat, I didn't know if it was going to find the goal from the angle, and he did.
You see, the further he keeps running, the further he's just getting tighter and tighter, and you think, he's kind of scuffed this, will he cut it back? No, backed himself straight across the front of goal, and was good. But as you touched on, 3-2 at the half. Cardiff probably going in, obviously a bit down because they've come in losing, but almost probably thinking, well, shit, we've still got this in the bag. Like, it's still could go either way here, where on the flip side, Willow Greaves, the Katara coach, probably would not have been too happy with his result. Obviously, sparking the boys up at half-time, and then it came out to show in the second half. But even from the walkout, when they started, you could see a sheer difference between the lineups of the two teams. Katara looking like a very young and you would just say off the bat a fit team. Cardiff having some younger guys in there, but looking the more experienced, if I can use that as a word, experienced team, some older heads on the shoulders kind of thing, and it kind of just showed, as you said, some of the Katara goals, or most of them, were just counter-attacks, and maybe that's where Cardiff let themselves down there.
I don't know. In terms of Katara's goals, I don't know if maybe even counter-attacks is the right word for it. There was a lot of...
Maybe at speed.
It was very quick on the break, but they were very composed at picking their moments to go forward. They were often making those passes through the back line, and the back line often past the halfway line.
Yep.
But making those passes, looking for each other, and then not forcing the issue too many times. Sometimes they look for that switch, and it paid off a couple of opportunities. But often I was pretty impressed with the way that they composed themselves and just went, yeah, look, we don't need to score another one right now. We want to score one in 20 passes time, not in 5 passes time. And it came off for them. And on your point about the maybe more experienced heads and stuff, and I certainly think that is the case. And there was a lot of moments where I felt Cardiff could have got more. There was a lot of moments where I felt the plays just didn't quite come off. And in my mind, I think Mitchell Cox had a great game for being relatively isolated, but I also think Nick Pepper had a really good game in the midfield.
Yep.
I think he did have to drop back on a few occasions, and obviously with the scoreline, he would have had to do that. But Ben McCabe as well for Cardiff looked really, really good, and even I think it was 6-2 or 7-2, I can't remember at what point it was, but I remember hearing him shout out, "Let's not drop our heads. We still have a game to play here," and it was just like, yeah, even losing, you want to have that mentality, and it's what he did.
Yeah, and talking about Katara's goals, there was obviously lots of them, 8 to be exact, but shared across the team as well. You've obviously got your Cooper Jansen, top goal scorer for There's Only One last year. He got on the score sheet twice, but as did Jack Reed-Jones and Harrison Ralph, as well as the other boys making up the other 2 goals there as well. But good to see it shared around. But also, you would think from a Qatarist perspective, not relying on one person, whether it's that one person to score the goals, that one person to make the plays. Seemingly, the whole team kind of cohesively were playing the game together. Yeah,
and I actually want to mention as well Liam Ryan, who scored the 6th.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, scored the 6th. Just had to make sure of that.
Yeah.
He scored the 6th, and it was, I think it was only 5 minutes after he'd gone on. He was subbed on, and he injured himself in the goal, and he had to sub back off. Which I did make the comment, and I think Willow had a chuckle about it. Was if you're gonna go off, that's the way you want to do it.
Yeah.
And it was, I think even in that sense, it felt as though they could just put any player on, and they looked good, and they had their moments, and that's what the case was. But yeah, I mean, you say a few players scoring a couple of goals as well. Ralph scored a second, and it was a little unorthodox, I'd say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like even as you mentioned, everyone getting involved, something that really stood out to me for until Jansen went off. I think he went off in sort of the 60th, maybe a little bit later than that. But I've seen his game a few times now, and it's always pretty direct to him and getting him into shooting opportunities. But the way that he held up the play for Qatar in the game and was able to look for those passes instead of just always going himself, which I don't think he's always gone himself anyway in the games I've seen.
No.
But it's just an extra level, it felt like, potentially watching this game. And it might have been the space he was afforded by Cardiff. It might have been his own, step up in ability this season. Who knows? But yeah, it was really it was impressive to see the way that he could, get a couple of goals, but also turn his back and lay off a player and get a couple of assists.
Yeah, and obviously with such a plethora of goals, it's hard to really pick out one standout one, especially with not just one of them being unorthodox, the way of scoring.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, and we haven't even touched on the player of the match vote. Sorry, the Bar TV player fan vote was Adam Mayer from Katara. You said watching him, you thought he was quite instrumental in and around the team as well, and then we also landed on the Harry Snitchell player of the match being Katara's captain, Jackson O'Sullivan. So 2 good efforts there from 2 guys then?
Yeah, no, I think I named Aiden Marr as the player of the match in the preliminary final. Mm-hmm. And that might have just been lingering on my mind in terms of seeing him perform again. But I think, as I mentioned, playing through the back line, I think that's something that he was doing very well. He was able to, even though he was out on the wing, out on the sideline, he was always seemingly receiving that pass and always playing the pass back across, and it felt like there was a lot of control in the game through him, and the moments that they picked to go forward, it felt like it was often his choice to make that run or play that ball forward as well, and for Jackson O'Sullivan in the midfield for the captain role. I've always thought in the games I've seen, he's been pretty solid. He's looked very composed on the ball, which I say a lot for a lot of these players. But it really feels like for O'Sullivan, he was just in the middle and always knew where someone was able to pick a pass. And, it felt for me that there was probably a couple of players, but there was probably 5 players out there that could have been given player of the match. But
I can imagine,
left it up to Nathan. There was a few times last year where CT and Vilso would take the opportunity away from me to pick the player of the match, and I've gone, you know what, that's okay. I'll let the co-coms call it, and that was his pick, and I don't think I can fault him.
Yeah, fair enough. And so, congratulations to both those guys. Looking to the women's match of the round, which, as of recording, was played last night. We did mention very stretched out round 3 because of the Easter break. But that game saw Northumberland play host to University at Heaton Park. Northumberland, unfortunately, going down 2-7 to the in-form University. Obviously, Uni, one of those top 2 teams in the women's, with Cooks Hill also topping the league. Warners Bay, seemingly a force, only played the one game. But from word around, they are those 3 teams are the danger ones. But looking at this one specifically, Uni clinically again up front, scoring 7, but Northumberland now off the mark as a team, scoring their first goals for the ZFLW season. As you said, it was pretty good from Uni in terms of just their clinicalness, and that's continued here as well. It never really felt as though maybe Northumberland could get back into it. There was times where the scoreline maybe got closer, and at the start of the game it felt kind of open, but the Uni just showed their strength. And you mentioned them, Cooks Hill, Warners Bay. I think the Uni play Warners Bay potentially next week. And then they play Cooks Hill in round 6, and I think those are some very interesting matches that we'll see, and will give us a proper idea of where these teams are going to line up. Northumberland, I think, speaking before the game, with Chad before both of the games that have been actually around for Northumberland, there's been a mention of, we're just going to see how we can progress, and we want to make changes, and we want to make improvements. And speaking with him before this game, he felt there was that improvement against Warners Bay in round 2. He felt as though, that they just wanted to continue doing that in this round. And I think getting themselves 2 goals is probably a massive, massive start for that. And there were 2 pretty decent goals as well. It wasn't anything that was given to them. It wasn't even, not a set piece or anything that, sometimes I suppose you can get lucky. You can make your own luck, but you can get lucky, of course. And it was 2 decent goals on the break, and it was good for them. But for the Uni, it was just, again, a dominant display, a clinical display. I think Jesse, who was on the comms with me, said, for Northumberland, they'll be happy they scored the most goals anyone scored against the Uni this season. The other thing, it's also the most goals Uni have scored against anyone this season. So it kind of goes both ways. Of course, Izzy Winter on the score sheet 3 times. She seems to be one of their target players, getting those statistics up. Eloise Pepper as well, another great game from her, but a specific goal that stood out for me was one of Uni's early goals. Just popped out in a bit of space. I think it was Crabette's defender playing it out. It was stolen in the midfield, and in the same movement, just struck so nicely. When you're talking about maybe creating your own luck, I can't see that being something that you practice at training, but when the ball pops up right in front of you like it did, you just put your foot through it, and on this occasion it worked out. Yeah, we've seen a couple of long-range efforts from the Uni go in now in their match of the rounds, and it seems as though that's going to continue. That it would be great to have it continue, but there was a lot of goals, of course, scored, but it felt like maybe only a couple of them were not the greatest goals. There was just one of those slide it through and score, and they all count the same. But I think it was only a couple were the ones that, not even at fault of anyone, just the simple goals in front of net. You expect to score from those moments. But there was a lot of longer range efforts. There was some decent shots in there, and I think in particular as well. You mentioned the goal that she scored, Eloise Pepper. She scored. After goal,
a great goal, but also so much effort through the game.
Of course, yeah.
And
never seems to stop running in the games that we've seen so far.
No, and was the Harry Snitzel Player of the Match, was the Bar TV fan vote as well Player of the Match, and I think it was deserving so. Yep. I sort of mentioned, I think late into the first half, there was a few chances where she probably could have passed the ball across, went for goal herself. But then there was also, I think she got 2 assists on the night where she did make those runs and then make the ball across to get the assist. And it felt like in the second half she was probably owed her own goal.
Yeah.
And she got it. It was a very nice ball out on the right wing. And I was told, she's normally attacking minded. She was playing defensively on the day, but it didn't feel like that.
No.
She was very willing to get forward. She was playing right wing back. And of course you're allowed to have some extra room when you're playing on the wings in the back line. But it just felt like she didn't stop running the whole game and was rewarded with a goal.
Yeah, and definitely didn't forget her striking abilities. The goal itself, as we're saying, quite a tidy finish as well from out wide, picking that left corner. And yes, again, Eloise Pepper, the Harry Snitzel Player of the Match and the Bar TV fan vote. Yeah. So first time so far this season that the same players got both awards. So congratulations to Eloise Pepper on that achievement. Yeah. Just a quick break to talk about our amazing sponsors of the Zone Football League, starting with our match ball sponsor, Deploy Football, handling everything from screamers to shanks without missing a beat. Built tough for the realities of local football, it's designed for durability, consistency and performance, no matter how hectic things get out there. Week in, week out, they keep the game flowing across the whole of Zone Football League. Again, for the 2026 Zone Football League season, our Player of the Match is proudly brought to you by Harry Snitzel. Earn it on the pitch, then celebrate it properly with a quality feed that hits the spot after full time. Because big performances deserve more than just bragging rights. They deserve a top-tier schnitty. You too can feel like a winner off the pitch when you head down to Harry's to try one of their famous schnitzels. Again, 2 big games, 2 big score lines. Though some other notable results from across the leagues. We'll start with Zone League 1. The ever-flying Westlakes Wildcats at the moment. They're on a bit of a barnstorm here, getting a 5-4 result over Stockton Sharks. Bulwarra Lawn bouncing back after their Minmai result, getting a 2-1 win over local rivals, the North United Wolves. Zone League 3 saw a tough match with Garden Suburbs, again a team that undefeated, taking on Maitland and getting the better of them 4-2. And finally, the other women's game played over the weekend was Cooks Hill playing host to Greta in a 10-0 game, their result going to Cooks Hill. Some more interesting results as they seem to be every week. These just some of them. But what's your thoughts from these games?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, for Westlakes, I mean, what a season they're having so far. A couple of draws in there, but a couple of good results going their way in terms of who those oppositions are.
Both these teams in this fixture struggling in the relegation. Just got saved with Azuri's results being just that little lesser. But seemingly Westlakes firing. Yeah,
they found something and they've started looking really good. The couple of draws, as I said, now a win. It's not necessarily what I was expecting this season, but I think you can probably see with those results that we're going to have a very interesting, a very tight ZFL 1 this season as well.
Yes.
If the teams that were fighting to not get relegated last season are getting these results against some top teams, and Westlakes there with the 5-4 against Stockton, who, as you said, were at the lower end of the table last year as well, but to overcome the rival from last season in terms of making sure you get those results. I think I said on the pod last week, last year it was important to get those 1 or 2 points from these matches.
Yep.
To get 3 on top of a couple of decent draws in tough games. A great start for them and for the ZFL 2 one, as you marked, Bulwarra with the result. I got a message of check out the late goal and check out the support, turned the volume up, and the atmosphere at Bulwarra was seemingly electric, and they're back on track. It wasn't a great result for them against Minmai. they weren't too happy with it, but they bounced back there.
Brendan Dance seemingly keeping his job for now as well. There was some murmurs getting around that he might have been shipped back off to the Air Force. But yeah, obviously in a derby game as well, the result, a late goal as well as it seemed, would mean even more to the team. And then also, as we're saying, these results, especially for the league, how important that this could come back to bite Wolves later down the track when it is only a couple of points between them and Bulwarra, or them and another opposition. It's close in that finals, and them thinking back and going, we could have had those extra points there. To wrap out this episode of the podcast, we look at this weekend's round 4 match of the round fixtures, which sees Lambton Jaffers take on South Maitland in Zone League 2, Saturday the 11th of April, 2:30 p.m. at Harry Edwards Oval. In 2025 season, the points were split, with South Maitland getting the win 2-1 over Jaffers in the opening round of the season. And then in round 12, Jaffers returned hosting South Maitland and getting a 3-1 win. This one's going to be a very tight clash. Definitely head down to Harry Edwards Oval on Saturday to catch that one, 2:30. And if you can't make it, it's always on Bar TV. Sunday sees us showcase the Zone League women's game, where Warners Bay take on Cooks Hill at John Street Oval, 1 p.m. Cooks Hill obviously high flying at the moment, but Warners Bay looking like they could be one of the teams to put a halt to the Cookers' reign at the moment. Big test for them, big test for Cooks Hill. So that one, Sunday, 1 p.m. kickoff, John Street Oval. Warners Bay taking on Cooks Hill. As we always say, 2 big games this weekend as the season is starting to heat up. As always, as well, Bar TV streaming it live and free on the website. Otherwise, definitely go down to all of the games that are being played across the weekend, across the whole region of Zone Football League. This has been another episode of the Zone In podcast. We'll see you after the weekend.